boys who are kind of not involved, like Robbie Ronan were coming back, and then say Gary, Josh, James, who are not involved, are they all kind of okay though?
Yeah. Like, so you're trying to just make a call on the group. I think we all probably think that we do the group a disservice if we didn't make changes and give other guys an opportunity. Because the nature of the season, as we know, like there's so many moving parts, and it's over such a long period of time, and some guys have been excellent in terms of getting us to where we are, and it's required a lot of players, and so then it's trying to get the right balance in terms of selection. And we think we've a really exciting group, and plenty of guys with a point to prove, and hopefully we'll see that. I really hope we see guys, because I know there's the previous week there's disappointed players not to be selected. So the group that we have, as I said, I think it's an exciting group, and we really hope to go well, because it's big. We want to be successful on both fronts, which is not easy. Sharks out of Europe, so they're a 2-week lead into the game, and every team is slightly different dynamic how they do things. You obviously have to do your things your own way. But in terms of the question, like it's some guys, you're sort of making the calls on how guys have pulled up from the previous week, but there's no showstoppers really with anyone at the moment, which is good. Again, the backroom team worked hard to make sure guys are in good shape for this stage of the season, because like when we were setting off at the very start of the season, you're looking at this period of the season, you'd love to be here having these conversations, because there's no guarantees that you will be having these conversations. But the group, they've done incredibly well to get to the home quarter final in the URC, and now we know we're at a final here in a couple of weeks as well. So but again, like it's sort of again, it's week to week to week, isn't it? And try and make some calls on the go. And it's not like we going into the semi-final last week we had a clear idea like what we were planning on doing this week. So you're sort of seeing how players turn up on Sunday and Monday and make some calls then.
Has last year's defeat to the Bulls factored much into the preparation this week, just kind of reinforcing that message about not taking your eye off the ball?
Well, that's the thing, definitely, yeah. Different scenario, really, isn't it? Like, as you're coming off, there's a bit of an emotional roller coaster. Well, it's similar sort of emotions. That's the thing about that consistency in performance, and some of the fresh players coming into the group, need to deliver that freshness and clarity of mind, that they're not as bogged down, but they have to play like they have a point to prove. The Bulls came with a point to prove. The Sharks, I believe, will come with a point to prove, and we need to make sure we're ready for that physical battle that it'll be. We got a taste of it because we played Sharks. It was a very physical game, if you remember, in the RDS back in round 4. The lads know that Noel knows us very, very well. So how they go about trying to attack us in particular. But yeah, they'll make life really difficult for us, just like the Bulls did. Different venue. But yeah, it's very much on our mind, that Bulls game, and I guess just the flatness of our performance that day, but again, there's a lot to do with the Bulls and how they played, and the Sharks will come with a similar mindset, I'm sure.
And on the Sharks, and you mentioned the last time out at the RDS when you played them, you said it was very physical. It was a pretty wild game in general though as well, just with the scoring, it kind of became quite loose. Would you prefer tomorrow to be a bit more controlled throughout the 80 minutes?
Yeah, always was being controlled. Unfortunately, the nature of the game that we're involved in, it can be chaotic at times. The way to defend, very aggressive, sort of up and in defence, and if you're not accurate with what you do, like they can make life very, very difficult. You see in some of the games they played in recent weeks, and how aggressive they are on the edges, and wingers coming in and picking off intercept passes, and scrum halves similar as well, and so they are very, very aggressive. Yeah. So in that game there was a bit of sort of a chaotic nature to it at times. So just making sure that we're able to try and impose our game. But that's the South African game is based around physicality, strong set piece, and they want to impose themselves physically on the game. So we need to make sure we're clear in our own minds as to how we counteract that and try to impose our own game.
The difference between that game and this game, the Sharks have a good few of their Springboks in from the start this week. Does that change the challenge?
Yeah, like they've had a few disruptions as well, but yeah, they've invested heavily in their squad. It's no big secret, is it? So they have that outside investment that are very ambitious, big plans for the franchise or club, whatever you want to call it. And they brought in like some huge name players, top Springboks. So the front row, Luganyam, like across the team, they've so much experience. So it's going to be a great test for our guys.
I haven't played them before. Do you get a handle on playing South African teams? Like they're fairly new into the URC. Is there some way to play them, or do you just play what you see on the field?
Well, it's understanding the way they, particularly the way they defend, and the way they, I suppose the emphasis that what they put most focus on, and as I said, set piece and physicality is big. They tried to come at us around the ruck the last time in terms of their attack, to try and, I guess, narrow us up and then, use their speed on the edges. You saw some of the tries that we conceded in that game, if you remember, in the RDS game. And like you've seen probably in more recent weeks, some of their games against Munster, the way they tried to play, as I said, just around that defence in particular. So very aggressive with defensive sort of outside pressure on the edges. And if you're loose with possession, they'll punish you. Yeah. So just making sure that we're clear on the pictures, and the pictures are a little bit different that you would see. Not all the South African teams are the same now, but certainly Stormers and Sharks, those two teams. Slightly lesser extent Bulls, but and then Lions are different slightly again. So, but yeah, no, there's definitely different threats posed, and we didn't get it right when we came to the semi-finals last year. So, we hope we have learned some lessons from that bad and painful experience, and we're better this week.
The fact that they're out of Europe, does that make them more dangerous? That they can totally concentrate on this?
Well, that's the thing, and that's the challenge for our guys. So the group that's representing the province, Leinster, this weekend, is that's their responsibility to be solely focused on this game, because you start looking around at something else, then that's when you come unstuck. So Sharks don't have that problem. When they're knocked out of Europe, and then their attention is trying to challenge or qualify for the Champions Cup, should I say, next season. So their only way of doing that now is by winning this competition. So that's the way I understand it. So you can imagine it's just another layer of motivation for them. And I think they'll be, as I said, they'll be full steam, do everything they can to win. They'll definitely push the boundaries, I think, for sure. And I think they'll be giving everything they possibly have to get a positive outcome, because it's so big. It's not just qualification for the semi-finals, it's also, as I said, qualification for Champions Cup, and there's a huge, I suppose, commercial upside to being involved in the Champions Cup. So they'll be fully motivated for sure.
And finally, how much of a headache is it for the coaching staff to pick a team for the quarter final of the URC, with a couple of weeks to go to the?
Well, I think for the playoff games of the URC, when you use so many players during the course of the season, is always a challenge. A positive challenge, because you've got there. And there's players that are disappointed, and it was the same to start this week. There's guys disappointed. I think when players see that there's going to be some changes in the team, and then they get excited. Is this their window of opportunity? But again, there's some close calls there that some guys have been unlucky to miss out on. But again, that's just going back to the responsibility of the 23 that do get selected, and there's the wider group that have tried to prepare that group well this week, because, as I said, there's different pictures that you'd face against the Sharks than you would against some other teams in the URC specifically. It's a great challenge, but selection it's a positive headache. But as I said, the group have been nice, competitive, and they're working for each other, which is the main thing.